Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Grind. As you see, everybody is heading off to their respective jobs and whatnot. But now that I'm back from camping, hey, we're back on our regular journey. And I want to kind of share something that I noticed this last weekend. Unfortunately, we saw a couple of big celebrities pass away. Frank Fritz, who you probably know from, I think it's a show called American Pickers, where he cruises around and he looks for odds and sods and little gems and whatnot. And so unfortunately, seeing that, I've seen a couple celebrities this weekend actually, or this week, that, unfortunately spent their last days on the earth. And I mean, with all that respect, because it's sad, but we all face that certain day at some point. But Frank Fritz, from what I understand, I don't know all of it, and please do correct me. And that does come to the conversation about today's video, because it's important and this will have a point to it. But Frank sadly passed away at the age of 60 years of age. And even worse, to compound that, allegedly, and this is only because what I've heard, I don't know obviously him or his family or anybody like that personally, that it could have been related to a stroke he had a couple years earlier, and he never totally recovered. So it sounds like health had severely declined after the stroke. And it's devastating to see that to me. And so that puts him, by my guesstimate, 58, 57, 58, maybe when he had the stroke. And then late 50s. I'm 54. I see stuff like this and it's sobering to me. It's truly, truly sobering that a gentleman, barely made 60, not even retirement age in most countries. Retirement age is, 65, 67 and beyond in some countries. And it's so devastating to see that people don't even make those types of years. They wouldn't even technically, make proper retirement age. The golden years, he never really even got there. And that, to me, is extremely sad, and it's easy to focus on that. But I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on something different. But before I get to that, another one that went, unfortunately, this weekend, probably heard Chris Christopherson, actor, country singer. Some would say he lived a charmed life. Others would say he lived a bit of a hard life. However you look at it, he made it to 88, is what I understand. And so he almost made 90. To me, that's doing well. If you make it to later 80s, you've crushed it in my mind. I've always said that if I can make a solid 80 in relatively good health, then I'm good. I've done my piece, I've spent my time, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And that's why I also live with no or little regret, really. I try to do everything very intentionally, and if things aren't the way I like them to be, I start formulating plans to make a change. Anyway, beyond that, so what's the conclusion about this? What's the point? Well, it's easy to focus on that side of life, which is when life ends. And unfortunately, it's easy to focus on that because everywhere you look, there's things in the news, mayhem, there's wars, there's people like this, unfortunately, that don't get the, unfortunately, like, we hear about it because they're in the limelight, but every day the obituaries are full of people that spent, unfortunately, again, I say that unfortunately because it's very unfortunate, but we all get there, is that they spent their last days. And we see it everywhere. And the more you focus on that stuff, the more, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? The more not stressful, but the more you you can zone in on that. And if your state of mind isn't exactly where, in a positive state of mind, it's pretty easy to start going down this rabbit hole and start thinking about this, focusing on this, and worrying about this. Then you often become, very much, I know people that are like hypochondriacs. They get paranoid about every little thing. And then they live life in this spiral of despair of, thinking about, what ifs, when, oh, what's this thing? What's this goal? What's going on? Something changed. And, the medical profession is one to tell us to, do your regular checkups and watch for this and changes in body and changes in this and that. And we know our body's best and do all the regular, work to, go see doctors and get all the regular tests done. And, and that's all well and good. We should keep an eye on things and try to live a healthier life to begin with. And really should be more a focus of prevention rather than, once somebody does have something, then trying to manage that. It should be more on the front end with lifestyle, food, and all of that. Honestly, I think is the better angle, but sometimes genetics plays a part. Sometimes, environment where you can't avoid it or your work kind of introduces you to those things. Sometimes that all plays a part. And sometimes we don't have the opportunity to control our entire destiny. We can do our best. We can certainly work on trying to make things better for ourselves and healthier for ourselves, but it doesn't always work out that way. So all we can do is do what we do, right? But take care of yourself, keep an eye on things, but, really ultimately live life. And so that's really kind of what today I'm talking about is with all of these things around us and these two celebrities we saw, one really barely made 60 and the other one almost made it to 90. And so that's really the point of this conversation. It's so easy to focus on the negative side. It's so easy to focus on news and things and chaos around us. It's so easy to focus on all those bad things and obituaries and, and we all suffer loss. Unfortunately, I lost both my parents here in the last few years. We all sustain that. We all have people we lose. We'll all be going away at some point, and 200 years from now, people won't even remember us. So that's just life. That's just how it is, the circle of life, and that's just what it becomes. But instead of focusing on all of that, because it's quite easy to go down that rabbit hole, how about not? And so I was going down that rabbit hole, and that corporate, and I really do, I'm not blaming it, but I was becoming a product of my environment, which I didn't like that environment. I didn't like the person I was becoming. And also it started driving me down that rabbit hole. I started becoming more paranoid, more, I don't know, lots of things that I just didn't like about myself as I was changing in the last few years of my job. So I was becoming that person that was overthinking, worrying, concerned, stressed, anxiety about everything. That just wasn't a good place. My mind wasn't in a good place. My soul, everything wasn't in a good place. And my focus was on these very things, like Frank Fritz and Chris Christopherson, for example. My mind was there. I was focusing on those things regularly. It was just the way it was. And, ever since that and the shift and this journey, into retirement, you start to leave some of that baggage behind, or ideally you do. And most people tend to do that because immediately you notice a stress drop. But a lot of those things, that baggage that we carry, and that's, for me, that was baggage. And I tended to focus on all those things. I find now that it's becoming more clear to me. Life is brighter. The sun shines brighter. The sky is bluer. The grass is greener like that. My coffee even tastes better like this here as well. And just in general, I'm living life in a more positive light. And so rather than focus on this mayhem, rather than focus on, what happened to the Franks and the Chris's, instead of focusing on their final due date or expiration date, let's focus on some of the fun things that they did and celebrate not just what they did, but what we all do. I mean, it's ultimately celebrating life. And so, as we transition out of some of these, out of your work or out of whatever it is, this doesn't even have to necessarily apply to just retiring. This applies to life. It's just that shift in focus I'm finding now about, living life to a fullest, looking things through more rose-colored glasses rather than, the dim, scratched up glasses that I had before that you couldn't see through. It's all about shifting your priorities, your perspective on life. And for me, those perspectives, although I've had my shares of ups and downs, as we all have, and certainly it's been a trying year for me that way. I'm blowing out on the other end of this summer with a bit of a different shift. Like, I came into spring, wham, the end of February, boof, I got formally pushed out the door. March, my mom passed away. Boom. Then all these other things about just managing, finances, and because you're now thrown to the wolves. So there's a lot that's hit this summer for me and for a lot of people out there. The biggest way I got through this was having family, but trying to keep a positive light, trying to stay on top, because I didn't have a ton of friends. When you leave like that, all these people you thought you were your friends at your job, they're not your friends. They all just vaporize. So you actually have less people around you in that situation than you think you might. And so I did have my family, wife, great kids. They were all with me to show some support and solidarity. But at the end of the day, lawnmower's going. Must be the last cut of the year because it is chilly. Oh, and by the way, look, shorts. And look at those shoes. Hey, look at the shoes. And that's funny because I had a comment the other day. One of the gentlemen, I think on one of the comments, asked me, "Hey, are you wearing flip-flops?" Oh, that's so unprofessional. But I'm... I know, a little bit. I've been accused of that a time or two. That's okay. You know what? The way I see it, I've conformed for years, working the corporate lifestyle. Conformed. And I use that word conformed because I felt like a soldier. And you have to conform in that life. They tell you where to go, where to eat, how to get there. And if you don't follow and say the right things, then you're ostracized. And that's kind of what I was doing. I was getting there. And so wearing sandals or wearing flip-flops while I go for these walks was just a little bit of me subliminally saying, screw it, I'm doing it my way. And I don't care corporate and any of those other people think. It's done. So that's me just sort of kicking off my shoes, getting comfortable and saying, hey, life is good and I'm living my life the way I want to live it. And you all should as well. So again, I just want to bring the focus through all this negativity in the world. You really just got to say, enough is enough. I'm going to focus on some of the good things. What are some of the great things? You got family, maybe you got a holiday coming up, maybe you got some time off. Maybe, you're taking on that project. Maybe you've got something, that you're looking forward to. Enjoy that. Look forward to it again. Like, those are the things that kind of drive us, give us a reason to keep forging ahead. And so, yeah, enjoy it and be positive. And that's all I'm trying to say right now is, instead of focusing on all of the what ifs, because realistically, we don't know when our time is. And these two different examples I wanted to share with you are classic examples of we don't know when our time is. Could be in the 50s, could be in the late 80s. We don't know. That's the point. That is the point. And we don't know. All we can do is live our lives in a positive manner and enjoy it to the max. And really, that's all there is. So anyway, thanks again. I hope to hear from each and every one of you. Hey, drop a comment, please. If you get a second or two, love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you real soon. All right, bye-bye.